Black woman CEO, publicly humiliated by a billionaire family. Then she cancels the $500 million deal. What if the deal of a lifetime came with a price you couldn't afford to pay? Mariah James was no stranger to closed doors. Growing up in a modest neighborhood in Atlanta, she'd learned early that the world didn't hand out opportunities to girls like her, black, female, and unapologetically ambitious. Her mother, a school teacher, and her father, a mechanic, had instilled in her a relentless work ethic. "They'll try to box you in," her mother used to say, "but you're not a box. You're a force." Those words became Mariah's mantra, carrying her through years of rejection, skepticism, and outright dismissal in the tech world. At 34, Mariah was the CEO of InnoVision Technologies, a company she'd founded in a cramped apartment with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and a stubborn refusal to quit. InnoVision's flagship product, Synapseer, was an AI platform that promised to democratize artificial intelligence for small businesses, making advanced tech accessible to those who'd been priced out by the industry giants. It was revolutionary, not just for its tech, but for what it represented. A black woman breaking barriers in a world that rarely made room for her. Mariah's journey to this point had been a gauntlet. She'd faced venture capitalists who questioned her credentials while fawning over less qualified competitors. She'd endured boardroom snubs, where her ideas were ignored only to be parroted by others to applause. She'd worked twice as hard, for half the recognition, but she never let the bitterness take root. Instead, she channeled it into building something undeniable. By 2025, InnoVision was valued at $200 million, with Synapseer poised to disrupt the AI market. Mariah was on the cusp of global impact, but she knew the real test was yet to come. Mariah was a study in contrasts, fierce yet vulnerable, calculated yet deeply empathetic. To the world, she was a polished CEO, her tailored blazers and confident smile a shield against scrutiny, but in private moments she wrestled with doubt. Late nights in her office, staring at lines of code or financial projections, she'd wonder if she was enough. The weight of being a trailblazer was heavy, not just for herself, but for every young black girl watching her, hoping to see themselves in her success. Her closest confidant was her best friend, Lena Carter, a no-nonsense lawyer who'd been with Mariah since their college days at Spelman. Lena was the one who reminded Mariah to laugh, to breathe, to remember who she was when the world tried to redefine her. "You're not just building a company," Lena would say. "You're building a legacy." Mariah leaned on Lena's wisdom, but she also carried a private fear that one wrong move could unravel everything. Another key figure in Mariah's life was her lead engineer, Raj Patel, a brilliant but introverted coder who joined InnoVision in its earliest days. Raj believed in Mariah's vision with a quiet intensity, often working late to perfect Synapseer's algorithms. His loyalty grounded her, reminding her that her team was her strength. Together, they'd built a company culture rooted in inclusivity and innovation, a stark contrast to the cutthroat norms of Silicon Valley. The Blackwell family was tech royalty, their name synonymous with wealth and influence. Led by patriarch Edward Blackwell, their empire spanned software, finance, and real estate. They were known for their ruthless efficiency and their questionable ethics. Whispers of employee exploitation, tax evasion, and discriminatory hiring practices followed them, but their money and connections made them untouchable. When Edward's son Thomas Blackwell reached out to Mariah with an offer to invest $500 million in InnoVision, it felt like the universe was finally aligning. The deal was a game changer. With $500 million, InnoVision could scale Synapseer globally, opening offices in Europe, Asia, and Africa. It would mean hiring hundreds, maybe thousands, and bringing AI to communities that had been left behind by the tech boom. For Mariah, it wasn't just about the money. It was about proving that a black woman could lead at the highest level, that her vision could reshape the world. The negotiations began smoothly. Thomas, a 40-year-old heir with a Harvard degree and a penchant for flashy suits, was charming at first. He praised Synapseer's potential and called Mariah a visionary. But there was something in his eyes, a glint of condescension, that made her uneasy. She pushed it aside, focusing on the prize. The deal was set to be finalized at a high-profile tech summit in San Francisco, broadcast live to an audience of investors, industry leaders, and the public. It was Mariah's moment to shine. As the summit approached, the stakes grew higher. Mariah prepared meticulously, rehearsing her pitch and anticipating every question. She knew the Blackwells would test her, but she was ready. Her team rallied behind her, with Raj fine-tuning Synapseer's demo and Lena reviewing the contract's fine print. The buzz around InnoVision was electric. Tech blogs called it the startup to watch, and Mariah's face graced the cover of Forbes. But beneath her confidence, a quiet dread lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The night before the summit, Mariah sat in her hotel room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She traced the lines of her face, remembering every sacrifice that had brought her here. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, but her voice trembled. Lena called, sensing her unease. "They're not giving you this deal because they're nice," Lena warned. "They want something. Be ready." Mariah nodded, but sleep eluded her that night. The summit was a spectacle. Thousands of attendees, flashing cameras, and a stage that felt like the center of the universe. Mariah stood tall in a crimson blazer, her presence commanding the room. The audience was rapt as she demoed Synapseer, showing how it could empower small businesses with AI-driven insights. The applause was thunderous. Then came the negotiation panel, where Mariah sat across from Thomas Blackwell and his sister, Claire, the family's CFO. Thomas leaned back in his chair, his smile more predatory than warm. The moderator asked about the partnership, and Mariah spoke passionately about her vision for Synapseer. But when it was Thomas's turn, the air shifted. "Let's be real," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. "InnoVision's a nice story, but it's punching above its weight. Mariah's done well, better than most given the circumstances." He paused, letting the word hang. "But let's not pretend this isn't about checking boxes. Diversity. Quota's got her here, not raw talent." The room gasped. Mariah's heart stopped. The cameras zoomed in, capturing every flicker of her expression. Thomas wasn't done. "She's emotional, not strategic. This deal? It's us taking a risk. On her, not the other way around." His words were a calculated gut punch, laced with racism and misogyny, designed to diminish her in front of the world. Mariah's hands trembled under the table, but she kept her face composed. Inside, she was unraveling. She thought of her mother, her team, the countless nights she'd spent proving herself. Claire Blackwell, sitting silently, offered no defense, just a cold, assessing stare. The moderator, flustered, tried to move on, but the damage was done. Social media exploded with clips of Thomas's remarks, some praising his honesty, others decrying his cruelty. Mariah felt the weight of 1,000 eyes, judging her, questioning her worth. Backstage, Mariah paced, her mind a storm. Lena was there, furious. "He planned this," she said. "He wanted to humiliate you to weaken your position." Raj, usually quiet, spoke up. "You don't need them, Mariah. Synapseer is yours. We're enough." But the reality was stark. Without the Blackwell money, InnoVision's growth would stall. Jobs could be lost. Her dream could falter. Mariah faced a choice: swallow her pride and take the deal, securing her company's future, or walk away and risk everything. She closed her eyes, picturing her younger self, the girl who'd coded her first program at 12, who'd dreamed of changing the world. She thought of the black girls watching this moment, waiting to see what she'd do. And then, in a flash of clarity, she knew. Mariah returned to the stage, her heels clicking with purpose. The audience hushed, sensing something monumental. She took the microphone, her voice steady, but blazing with resolve. "Thomas Blackwell thinks he can define my worth," she began. "He thinks he can diminish me, my team, and everything we've built. But let me be clear. InnoVision Technologies is not for sale to people who thrive on exploitation." The room erupted in murmurs. Thomas's smirk faltered. Mariah didn't. "Stop! The Blackwell family has a history. Decades of underpaying workers of color, silencing whistleblowers and dodging accountability. I've seen the reports. I've spoken to their former employees. And I will not let my company be tainted by their legacy. She turned to the cameras, to the world. This deal is off. Not because I'm emotional, but because I'm strategic. Because integrity matters more than money. Because the future of tech isn't built on oppression, it's built on justice. With that, she walked off the stage, leaving Thomas and Claire stunned. The twist wasn't just her rejection of the deal, it was her exposure of the Blackwell's dirty secrets. Mariah had spent weeks quietly researching their practices, guided by Lena's legal expertise and tips from industry insiders. She'd uncovered documents showing discriminatory hiring, wage theft, and offshore accounts. By going public, she turned the tables, making the Blackwells the story, not her. The aftermath was chaotic. Social media platforms lit up with Mariah James and Cancel Blackwell trending worldwide. Tech blogs ran exposés on the Blackwell empire, fueled by Mariah's revelations. Former employees came forward corroborating her claims. The Blackwell's stock plummeted, and regulators began sniffing around their finances. Thomas issued a half-hearted apology, but it was too late. The damage was done. InnoVision faced immediate challenges. Investors pulled back, spooked by the canceled deal. Mariah laid awake at night, second-guessing herself. But then, something extraordinary happened. Small businesses, inspired by Synapseer's mission, began signing up in droves. Crowdfunding campaigns sprang up with everyday people donating to keep InnoVision afloat. A coalition of minority-led startups reached out, offering partnerships. The movement Mariah had sparked grew beyond her wildest dreams. Mariah leaned on her team to navigate the storm. Raj doubled down on Synapseer's development, releasing a free version for nonprofits. Lena spearheaded a legal fund to support whistleblowers. And Mariah herself became a sought-after speaker, using her platform to advocate for systemic change in tech. She spoke at universities, community centers, and global summits. Her message clear: success isn't about how much you make. It's about who you lift up and what you stand for. Mariah's journey came full circle one evening in Atlanta, at a community event for young Black coders. A girl, no older than 12, approached her, clutching a laptop. "I want to be like you," she said, her eyes shining. Mariah knelt down, her throat tight. "You already are," she replied. "Just keep going." In that moment, Mariah knew she'd made the right choice. The $500 million was a number. Her impact was infinite. A year later, InnoVision was thriving, not as a billionaire-backed giant, but as a beacon of change. Synapseer was in use across 50 countries, empowering businesses from Nairobi to Detroit. Mariah was named Time's Person of the Year, not for her wealth, but for her courage. The Blackwell empire, meanwhile, faced lawsuits and public scrutiny, their influence waning. Mariah stood on her office balcony, overlooking Atlanta's skyline. Lena joined her, holding 2 glasses of wine. "You did it, MJ," she said. Mariah smiled, but her eyes were on the horizon. "We're just getting started," she replied. Her story wasn't just about her. It was about every person who'd been told they weren't enough, who'd been asked to shrink so others could shine. Mariah James had rewritten the rules, not just for herself but for an entire industry, and for generations to come.